I'm Jeff Howard from the School of Urban and Public Affairs. I would like to talk a bit about sustainability, which is a crucial concept that is thrown around a lot these days and actually has a lot of different meanings in different contexts. Sustainability has come about for a couple of reasons, or our use of the term has come about for a couple of reasons. One of those reasons, broadly, historically speaking, is that we realized in the 80s and 90s that we weren't achieving the goals of what we had previously called environmentalism. Under the banner of the term environment, we weren't really succeeding in getting what we needed to get done. Reefs were dying, coral reefs were dying, climate change was proceeding, species were dying across the planet, and we realized that there was a need for changing the terminology so that we would have a better grasp of what the challenge is. So we realized that environment wasn't getting us to sustainability, wasn't getting us to survival, in other words. So one meaning of the term sustainability, one significance of it, I believe, historically, is that we recognize that in order to sustain ourselves in the long term, we're going to have to make some significant changes in the way we live, in the way we organize our economy. A second facet of this shift from talking strictly about environment to talking about sustainability is that we realized we didn't really know how to do this, that there were aspects of it that weren't obvious from the outset. One of these aspects was an idea or a framework that came about for recognizing some of the less obvious dimensions of this problem. Came about with a depiction of three circles. In one circle is economy. In another circle, overlapping that one, is environment. And in a third circle, and this one is maybe more subtle than the other two, or less obvious than the other two, social justice. We realized at some point, or we began to realize, many of us began to realize, that in order for us to do economy well, we had to figure out how to make it compatible with environment. But at some point we also recognized that in order for even that move to be sustainable in the long run, it had to also be a socially just solution. So, for example, in the U.S., it might seem to be completely sustainable for us to take our toxic electronic waste, cell phones and computer keyboards and so forth, at the end of their life and ship them abroad to be recycled. But what happens in an unjust world is that move winds up creating lots of toxic pollution and a lot of health impacts in other nations. So the sustainable solution to that problem really is to incorporate the ideas of social justice from the outset. Another example is that with climate change, it may seem entirely sustainable to develop solutions to climate change that would work here in the United States or in whatever country one might happen to be in, without thinking about what was happening on the other side of the planet. With climate change, we recognized that in order to have a truly sustainable solution to the problem, we were going to have to think not merely international and take responsibility here for the impacts of our behaviors in other nations on the other side of the planet. But, and this is even more important in some respects, we also realized that we had to take into account the impacts of our present day solutions upon future generations. So working out a solution to climate change that doesn't take into account the impacts 200, 300, 500, 1,000 years down the road is not a socially just, and ultimately not a sustainable solution. So this concept, or this three overlapping circles, gives us a mental image of the territory we have to traverse. Sustainability is one of the, perhaps the biggest challenge that the human species has ever faced. We really don't know how to go about it. We're making this up as we go along. We're trying to learn as we go. We're trying out a lot of things. Some of these things will pan out. Some of these things won't pan out. And in the process of developing these possibilities and trying them out and evaluating them, we have to think holistically. We have to think both in terms of what works for the economy, what works for the environment, and what works for social justice. That's the big picture. Well, I look forward to interacting with a lot of you in the future during the OneBook and conversations focus upon sustainability and related issues. I look forward to having you in my classes and seeing you at university events. Thank you.